My name is Aiden Fetching. I'm proud to serve as the principal of Mentor High School. I'm glad that you were able to make it out tonight and get a chance to be together for the first time. So we're no longer Shore Ridge Memorial, we're all Cardinals now. You're going to head back to your schools, and I know when I started here, this is midway through my first year, I sat in an auditorium very similar and looked at some of the new teacher orientation, some of the things that were going on, and one of the first things that amazed me was the size. And I was intimidated by the size of Mentor High School. 2,600 kids, 150 plus teachers, 50 staff members, all these custodians. And I was intimidated. It's a big school. How would I feel? Am I going to fit in? And I'm going to have the opportunity to introduce to you tonight some people who made this place and continue to do it on a daily basis, make this place feel a lot smaller, and are going to care about your kids. Because I see them do that every day in the hallways. And those are some of our administrators and some of our teachers. What's going to happen tonight is we're going to go through briefly a PowerPoint. You're going to get to meet your unit principal for next year. You're going to get to meet your guidance counselors and some of your department chairs. I'm going to point out some of our administrators in a little bit. And when the PowerPoint's done, we're going to call the department coordinators back up. We're going to have them answer some frequently asked questions that have been asked over the years, and hopefully they're your questions as well. If they're not, and you have specific questions, all of our department chairs will be outside in the hallway able to answer some questions for you. And again, we're going to meet again. There's going to be other opportunities to get together. There'll be MacBook distribution and a variety of orientation activities for all of you. So there'll be plenty of opportunities if you think of other questions. And as always, you're free to call or email when you have the chance. One of the things that I was asked last year at freshman orientation, and I'm going to tell you guys in advance, what's some advice for a freshman? What are some things I should do to make a good transition? And this is going to sound kind of silly coming from the principal, because of course I want you to be a great student, but most importantly, I want you to be involved. You're going to walk in these hallways and you're going to see all these kids, and the connections that are made are in those activities. You're all going to remember the memories. You're going to look back at the events, the games, the contests, the plays, the band performances. You're going to remember those things. Of course, academics is important, and of course that's what's going to help you get into the career that you want to follow after graduation, whether it be the military, whether it be college, whether it be the workforce. But the memories are going to be the activities, and those are going to be the groups that you connect with. And if you look around, and I know our administrators would answer this question the same way I would, the kids that are often lost, the ones in trouble, the ones that need help, those are the ones that aren't involved. You get involved, you have advisors, other adults, coaches that will keep an eye on you and help you guide you along the way. So I encourage you to get involved. To talk a little bit about the nuts and bolts of Mentor High School, I'm going to turn it over to our unit principal, Mr. Medges. But before I do, I'd like to introduce, if I could have the lights back on, Mr. Gatsky, I'd like to introduce a few people here. We have our unit principals, if you guys don't mind waving, Mrs. Chin, Mr. McKnight. Let's see, Mr. Crow's our CTE principal, Mrs. Wolf, a Mentor alum, Mr. Crow, who is CTE is also a Mentor alum, our assistant principal, Mr. McMahon, athletic director, Mr. Casella, and our guidance counselors. Well, you're going to meet Mrs. Harriman in a bit, and Mrs. Krazan down here. So now, without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to the Unit 9 principal for next year, who's got a class to graduate first in May, Mr. Kevin Medges.
All right. I want to thank everyone for coming. This is an interesting time for me because 4 years ago I started with the freshman class that is now seniors, and we were working very hard to make sure that they're successful post-secondary. We have a lot of kids going to college. We have students that are going to go into the workforce, and we also have kids that are going into the military. And so it's kind of bittersweet that I was able to see them, 15, 16-year-old kids that have now become, 18-year-old men and young ladies. And it's been very nice to see, and we have a lot of good students. And having been down at the middle schools, I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, I can already tell that we have a lot of good students coming out, a lot of students that care about their classmates, academics, the activities. And so I look forward to being, their principal for 4 more years, and I hope that, they have the success that the class of 2017 has found. Some of the things that we want to talk about, and I'll bring these all up, is some of the differences at the high school versus the middle school. If you can see here, the school day starts a little bit earlier, 7:22 to 2:26. So when I was talking to your sons and daughters, I made sure to let them know, the buses do get there a little bit earlier. You have to make sure you wake up, and you really have to, prioritize and plan and do these things so you're not late on a daily basis. One of the great things about the high school is, we're very accommodating, but we are we hold them to a high standard. And one of those things is being prompt and being on time. And we want to make sure that they understand that moving forward, that's extremely important, not just for high school, but life after high school. So 7:22 to 2:26, we do have late start Wednesdays, and that starts at 8:05. For juniors and seniors, and even freshmen and sophomores, they don't have to be here until 8:05. Now, I understand a lot of freshmen and sophomores don't drive, so they are able to take the bus at the regular time. What they do is then they would sit in the student center for 45, 50 minutes, and a lot of students utilize that time to get work done. We do have a couple quiet spaces in Digital Lab C that if they do have work or homework, they can concentrate on that without being disrupted in the student center. It does get a little bit noisy in there. It starts to fill up as the time goes on. One of the things that's important to note for Late Start Wednesdays is when students get here, they have to stay here. Which is good for you as parents, that you know that when a student gets here, they must be here and they need to come into the building, especially if they take a bus. And so I like to make that announcement that if you drop your son or daughter off, and they go to the building, we make them stay there, so you guys know where they're at. We do have 8 class periods, 48 minutes each, 5 minutes in between with passing time. It's a big building, but I can tell you at no point should a student be late from going from point A to point B in the building. It's a big building, but at the same time, it's broken down so nicely that I really think students don't have any issues getting to class. With the way the building's set up, we have A, B, and C wings, first floor and second floor. And a lot of times, to go to A to C is not that difficult. Occasionally, if you have to go to the back end of F, and then you have to go to the back end of A, it can, it may take a little bit longer, but I can tell you, having walked it, having to go to meetings when the students are in the hallways, I get to everywhere I need to be on time, so I don't think that'll be an issue for them as well. For freshmen and sophomores, they have a 22-minute lunch that'll butt up against a 22-minute study hall. And so we have that set up because there may be times where we need to speak to the freshman class as a whole. And the way we do that is we talk to them, if we need to, during that study hall time that butts up to their lunch. So every freshman will have a lunch, and then after their lunch, they will then go to study hall. Or they'll go to study hall first, and then they'll go to lunch. Some of the differences that are at the high school is because we are a little bit bigger, we have a lot of lunch periods here. So our mods 7 through 13 are actually all lunch mods. And so the way it works is a mod is half a period, and our schedule is broken down into 16 mods. So mods 1 and 2 is 1 period. And so what we do is come mod 7, that starts the lunches. They have 22 minutes. Kids will just get up. There is no bell. They just get up and then they go to their study hall for the other 22. It's a great opportunity for, especially as freshmen, to get some work done. One of the biggest transitions, I think, between middle school and high school is the academic rigor of the courses. And so a lot of times it helps and it's beneficial if they use that time wisely. I understand, and I'm sure with technology, there are a lot of pulling factors and things that can take you away from your work, but that's part of high school. That's one of the things that we're trying to do for all of the students here, is to make them understand that eventually there's going to be no one telling them what to do. And we're trying to teach them these skills, so when they leave high school, they can go to college or go, in the military, wherever it may be, to be successful. And that's one of the things that gets hard, is they need to understand that, yeah, we're here to help them, and we will help them, and we keep pushing them, and we make sure that they're doing the work, but at the same time, we're also taking a step back versus middle school. We want them to get some of that responsibility to, to ask teachers what they're missing, to do those things on their own. And we have a lot of great teachers here and staff members here to help them out, some of the best that I've seen. But at the same time, the kids need to take that responsibility, because in 4 years they're going to leave here, and then they're going to, post-secondary, they're going to go to a place that, may not help them, or won't ask them to turn their stuff in. So we want to make sure that we've given them, the responsibility to do that on their own. All students in the building are issued an individual locker, which obviously with the building this size, it's impressive that they can all have their own locker. They don't have to worry about anybody taking their stuff. I think the one thing that's important is, remind your son or daughter not to give out that combination. So many times, they give out that combination to a friend or to somebody who they're no longer friends with potentially, and sure enough, 4 months goes by and now they're missing something. And I don't want to see that happen. They shouldn't give out that combination to anybody. Because I have to tell you, having done this job as long as I have, I don't know anything that's been stolen from a locked locker if nobody had the combo for it. The other thing I told your sons and daughters was, don't preset the combination at the end so you can just walk by and pop it up. Other people know that trick too, so you may be missing something when you come back. So it is nice, it is one of those things. We are a big building, we have a lot of great students, but just like any other place or any outside of this building, there are people that will take your stuff, possibly if you leave your locker unlocked. We don't want to have that situation. Students are given more choices and more independence. That's kind of what we talked about earlier. It is, high school is a place where, we like to, we like to be involved, we like to help them out, but at the same time, we like to take a step back and allow kids, a little bit more freedom. And obviously, when I was talking to all the middle schools, I explained to them, we do give you probably a little bit more freedom than the middle schools, but we also expect a lot more, and we expect you to know how to behave. We expect you, to act appropriately with those, freedoms that you've been given. More courses to choose from, more opportunities to be involved in extracurricular activity, athletic programs, and social events. One of the things that Mr. Fetcher talked about that's so important is to be involved. And one of the things that's, extremely beneficial in Mentor High School is there's so much to be involved in. There's really nothing, if you like pretty much just about anything, it's probably a Mentor High School. We have so many organizations and clubs, and we even have, a gamers club that meets every other Thursday, I believe. We have everything to offer, as long as they take the opportunity to do it. And I think one of the important, pieces to this is that, the research shows that kids that are involved are more likely to be successful. They get to meet people. They have, they meet people with similar interests. And so I do think it's important that we push them to get involved in something. Because I think in the long run, it'll be beneficial to them. There's just so many positive offerings here that, they can't say that that there's nothing that we have that they don't like. Big thing for everybody is grade point average begins in the 9th grade and impacts post-high school options. I can tell you, being the senior principal currently, there's probably some students that if you talk to them, they maybe regret some of the choices they made as freshmen and sophomores when it comes to their curricular choices and their academics, because now that they've maybe matured, and now that they have potential to go to college, maybe some of the colleges that they'd like to go to, maybe they're not there yet, and that's okay. I try to tell the kids that we all make mistakes. Obviously, if you work hard, you can probably work around that mistake, and there are options. But I don't want any doors to close on students because of choices they made their freshman and sophomore year when it comes to their GPA. You don't get to hit redo. So if you struggle that for your first year or second year, that GPA is going to follow you. And it can be extremely hard to bring that up the more classes that are on that GPA. So I think it's important that you know, they come in with a fresh, positive attitude and really focus on why they're there, which is to learn, you know, and try to keep that up, because I don't want to see them in 4 years regret some of the decisions that they made. We've talked about the top two. With the bottom one, obviously the consequences in high school of failing a course are a little bit different, because we have standards here. And, you know, when you're in high school, you have 4 years of math, 4 years of English. You know, these are state standards. So if you don't pass a course, you have to take that, you have to, you know, retake that. One of the differences this year that we just started was we're now on semesters. So if you're taking Algebra 1, there's a Semester A and a Semester B. You need to pass Semester A and Semester B. So you get a half credit for each. And obviously that's a little bit different than the way it was prior to this year, which was a full year, you know, a full year course, which meant maybe if you didn't do well quarters 1 and 2, you could actually have the potential of passing that course if you did well quarters 3 and 4. Well, now, you know, there's a little more emphasis on having to do well from the get-go, because quarters 1 and 2 are going to be 40% and 40%. The other thing that's important to notice with the midterm, that's 20% now. So there's really more of a focus on that last, you know, that midterm at the end of, in December. And that's been a little bit of an adjustment, and I think, you know, the kids are slowly starting to get that of how this is all working. But I think it is important, because especially for the students that are going to college, it's more typical, more similar to what they're going to see post-secondary. Time management. Students need to plan their time wisely in order to effectively manage all their responsibilities. You know, just like what we were talking about, it's extremely important for all of these students to make sure that they're managing their time, because they're going to have more work to do outside of the school day. They're going to be asked to do more things at home. And so they need to make sure that, you know, if you're involved in athletics or a group, that you're planning accordingly. And even the students that maybe you have to go to work. You have to make time, and you have to find time. Obviously, you know, we don't want students to come until 12 or 1 o'clock at night. So it's really important that they take advantage of the time they have in school, but also it's important that they take time, you know, when they're done with school. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of students don't take advantage of. You know, they don't start their homework until later on, and you know, you ask them what they did from 2:30 to 5, and they really don't know, they don't have an answer for you. That's the time that we're trying to get these kids to focus on, and that time is important. Because obviously if you get this stuff done, you don't have to worry about it, and it obviously creates a lot less stress moving forward, because you know you've done everything you're supposed to do. You know, just one of the things, and I'll hit briefly, is just making the right choice. You know, part of being a student is obviously, and even an adult, we all make mistakes, but part of that is learning about the mistakes that you made, learning from them, and really trying to make the right choices. I think everyone here would agree. It really comes down to, you know, being respectful and just being a good, you know, person and a good citizen, and trying to help people out. And that's the type of culture we like to, you know, to have in high school. Is we have so many people that will help you out. We have a lot of good students, and it really is. Having been here, it's pretty phenomenal to see the amount of kids that we have and the amount of good kids that we have, and the kids that help other students and work with other students. There's a lot of people here that if you ask them, they would help you, and they'll help you out. If you take a look at the bottom, obviously we talked about organizational skills, self-motivation, the self-discipline, that kind of thing what we just, you know, talked about. All these things really, it's about them kind of maturing and going through this process of understanding that this is their responsibility to do this. You know, they have to set time aside, they have to be organized, they have to make sure that they're writing things down. You know, one of the big things that's obviously changed over the years is with cell phones. They pretty much have all, you know, they can write all that down on their phone, so they have it later, you know, when they get home. And it's important that they do these things to stay organized. And now that, you know, phones, the way the smartphones are, there's really no reason not to be organized. One of the things that we'll talk, you know, I'll briefly go over, We have a couple new spaces. Well, we have, the hub is a new space. And if you haven't been in there, hopefully you get a chance to go by the hub and take a look. It really is it's a pretty neat space. It's one that I think we all wish that we would have had when we were in school. But it's it's a place that kids can come together and they can quietly collaborate and work. And we're trying to create more of I don't want to say a college atmosphere, but we're trying to give them. It goes back to we're trying to give them a little bit more freedom. Independence to start to make those right choices. In the hub, if you go in there, like I said, it's a really neat space. The kids, they have projects they work on together. And you can see, I think, the picture in the middle there, I believe that's in the upper hub. And so we have the upper hub and the lower hub. Upper hub is used for classes and things of that nature, but the lower hub, access during lunch and study halls. But we also, because of the straight A grant, we also have 60 classrooms that we're renovating. And it's, same thing. Some of the, these are classrooms that we probably wish that we were able to sit in. They have TVs in there that, the teachers can, display notes, use technology with the Apple AirPlay on the TVs. And I think, now that we've pushed the one-to-one device with the MacBook Airs, which is going to be a little different, for your son or daughter, it's going to be a MacBook Air versus an Apple iPad, which is really kind of nice. They're a lot more functional for, I think, what we're trying to do. But now that we have that one-to-one, some of these things really, we try to be a little bit more advantageous with the technology and really try to get them to understand that technology is a great tool. But once again, it goes back to making sure that you're appropriate with it. And it doesn't always mean doing things that are inappropriate. It just means understanding how to use technology, understanding when it's maybe time to put the MacBook down, maybe when it's time to close the lid and listen, or doing these things to gain that maturity. But the MacBook is going to be everybody. I believe in August, you'll come up to the high school and everybody will be issued a MacBook. Surprisingly, with the amount of MacBooks that we give out, it's roughly around 600 plus, the process goes pretty quickly. And you'll get more information on that as time goes on, but it really, I think they'll like the MacBooks, they'll like them a little bit better than the iPads, but the nice thing is they have been introduced to technology in the classroom, and our teachers have been doing a phenomenal job of really using those technologies, whether it be station rotations, whether it be the PBLs that they're working on. We have a lot of great things going on, and I think one thing that people forget is obviously they're still I don't want to say traditional, but there's more. Teachers are still giving direct instruction to students as well. So really, it kind of hits every avenue for students. And that talks about the online and blended learning. We have some of these options that are becoming more available as far as online learning, and some of that will be done in the upper hub. And with the blended learning, obviously we're talking about classroom teaching, which is infused with technology. And I have to tell you, it's amazing to see what some of our teachers can do with it, and what some of our students can do because of what they're getting in the classrooms. And I think overall, it's going to help them when they leave this building. One of the things that we want to make sure is that we're preparing our kids, especially for the college-bound students, that they know how to do this stuff and they know how to use critical thinking skills, because I think that's one of the things that's going to help them out when they go past when they graduate. Okay. So, once again, I appreciate you letting me talk to you a couple minutes. I'm excited about, the next 4 years, and like I said, it's a little bittersweet for me because I got one class, I don't want to say I'm pushing them out the door, but I got one class that's leaving and another class that's coming in. So I'm going to have Miss Harum come up. She'll kind of go over, what they need to take and where they need to be credit-wise. So with that being said, this is Miss Harum.
Good evening. I'm Annie Harum. I'm the coordinator of the guidance department here at Mentor High School, and I will also be the freshman counselor for students with the last names A through K. Ms. Krazan will have the second half of the alphabet, letters L through Z. In the past couple of weeks, we've had the opportunity to meet with your students already. We've visited Ridge, Shore, and Memorial and presented some of this information for them. And You will get a glimpse of it tonight, and it's something that will be repeatedly brought up and presented to you as we move from freshman year towards graduation. And so hopefully this will give you a little idea of what to expect going forward. In 9th and 10th grade, we try to front load the graduation requirements as much as possible. We want to make room in the schedule during junior and senior year so that students can do a lot of exploration in order to figure out what they want to do, whether that is college, whether that is military, whether that is going straight into a career field. We want them to have as many opportunities as possible to explore as many different options that are available to them so that they're prepared when they leave the walls of Mentor High School. And so in 9th grade, students are required to take 6 courses each semester. The 4 core courses, the English, math, science, and social studies, those are actually recommended by their 8th grade teachers, and we already have those recommendations and are working on inputting that for their course selections for next year. Students will also take a semester of phys ed. The students should have brought home some information regarding the PE waiver, which is an option here at Mentor High School. It's used in place of credit, but it doesn't count for credit. So if a student uses a PE waiver instead of taking a physical education class, they still need to take a course that will give them that half a credit that they would have received taking 2 semesters of physical education. And it has to be, for the PE waiver, it has to be an Ohio High School Athletic Association approved sport, cheerleading, or marching band. And so those are the options there. And it's all or none. You either do the PE waiver for 2 seasons or you do 2 semesters of physical education. If you have more questions about that, you can feel free to contact the 8th grade guidance counselors, and they should be able to talk you through that. Opposite of physical education, students will take health. And health is actually an online course that is supported by one of our PE teachers. And this is kind of our gateway course because of all the blended learning and the online course options. We require students to take the health course and successfully complete it before they can sign up for other online options. They will have a study hall opposite their lunch. Many students will have another full period study hall to help aid in the transition, and that leaves them with 1 elective, possibly 2 depending on the combination that they choose. So Mentor High School graduation requirements, it's similar to what the state of Ohio requires. Well, it includes everything the state of Ohio requires, and an additional credit. So 21 total credits is what Mentor High School requires for graduation. 4 of those credits are in English, 4 in math, at least through Algebra 2. In science, it's 3 credits with a physical science, biological science, and 2 lab sciences included in there. Social studies, they have to take a world history, U.S. history, government, and economics, that half credit of PE, or the PE waiver, half a credit of health, and then 6 elective credits. And 1 of those credits has to fall within these categories, with the business, the family consumer science, technology, art, music, or world language. And it's pretty much next to impossible not to do that. So that makes up the 21 credits. You will find that most likely your child earns more than 21 credits towards graduation. So that is not uncommon. At this point, college should be an option for every student coming into Mentor High School. It may not end up being the option that they choose, but it's still an option for them. And so with that, it's important to know what the college core requirements are. And it's similar, meeting the graduation requirements. You'll get those core courses, the 4 English, the 4 math, the 3 science, the 3 social studies. But if a student is considering going to a 4-year college, they also require, most of them, 2 years of the same foreign language and a credit of a visual or performing art. So those are important to keep in mind as they're planning their schedules and moving ahead. The 2 years of the foreign language, I know sometimes some students have started those in 8th grade. Some students, kind of waited till high school starts. it's not necessary to start it as a freshman if they're not ready. If the student really needs the time to transition to high school, there is time to get those 2 years in and just kind of holding off a little bit to get that started. So there are many opportunities to earn beyond the regular diploma and to get an honors diploma. So this is something that we track throughout their high school careers as counselors, and it's something that students really need to think about and kind of have an idea early on. But junior and senior year is usually when you see that they have to start choosing those courses that kind of push them over the edge. The honors diploma that's up here on the screen is the academic honors diploma. And currently, we also offer a career technical honors diploma, but there's legislation in the state of Ohio to offer additional honors diplomas, which is likely to be pushed through for your son or daughter. And that would include a STEM honors diploma, an arts honors diploma, and a social science and civic engagement honors diploma. So as we get, as we're going through selecting courses, one of the things that we'll do is talk to your student about whether or not they're trying to go for an honors diploma and make sure they get those classes that aren't graduation requirements, but like a physics or a higher level, advanced level math course. We'll make sure if that is what they're going for, that they get those classes. So in addition to meeting the credit requirements, students must also meet a testing requirement. And there are 3 possible options for meeting the testing requirement. And we'll go into a little more detail in the next slides, but basically there is an end of course exam where there is a point requirement. There is a remediation free score that you can receive on a college readiness test, such as the ACT or SAT. And then there's also a career technical pathway where a student could receive a industry credential and a work readiness score on another assessment called the work keys. So the state mandated exams, these are the end of course exams, and students take 7 of these exams, and they take them right after they complete the course. So there are 2 math, 2 English, the biology, and then 2 social studies exams. So upon completion of each of these courses, they will take the end of course exam, and they will earn a score of 1 to 5. And in order to meet this part of the testing requirement for graduation, they have to earn 18 points, 4 of them being in English, 4 in math, and then a combination of 6 points in science and social studies. And so this is something obviously that we track very closely. And if students are not earning enough points, the ELA 1, ELA 2, they'll take that their freshman and sophomore year with English 9 and English 10. If they haven't earned their 4 points, we do offer retakes every year. So we will make sure that your students retake the courses to make sure they're getting the points that they need to meet that requirement for graduation. So for the ACT and SAT, these are the college and career readiness tests. And students, obviously take these in preparation for college, but we, beginning this year, will be offering one of the exams, and Mentor High School has selected the ACT, the junior year, the student's junior year, in which the school district will pay for them to take the exam. And so, the student must meet their credit requirement for Mentor High School, and then if they don't meet the testing requirement with the end of course exams, they can also receive a remediation free score on the SAT or ACT, and you can see that there's benchmarks for each of the content areas that they have to reach to meet that remediation free score. And finally, this is the career technical pathway. So the student can also receive a State Board of Education approved industry credential, and they also have to take an assessment called the work keys and meet the point benchmark for the work keys exam. and that is another possible pathway towards graduation. So as you can see, there's no one size fits all for how a student meets their graduation requirements. And, as your counselors, myself and Ms. Krazan, we will be sure to, work with your students, track all of this stuff. But we want the students to take some responsibility in that too. It's really important that they're aware of what they need, and you too as their parents, and please do not hesitate to call and ask us just to check and see where they are with meeting their requirements as they get closer to graduation. We really look forward to working with your students, and we'll be available afterwards to answer any questions you might have. But now Mr. Casella is going to come up to discuss athletics. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. I want to reiterate a little bit of what Mr. Fetchick and Mr. Medges said about being involved. And obviously, one of those pathways of being involved at Mentor High School is through our athletic program. We have several, as you can see, listed up here, but these are all of the varsity sports that we offer at Mentor High School. And we offer programs in these sports grades 9 through 12. Some of the sports have specific 9th grade teams. Other sports are then involved at either the junior varsity or the varsity level, depending on the sport. So these are all the sports that we do offer. In order for you to fully participate in sports at Mentor High School, though, there are a few things that you have to be aware of. If you've participated in sports at the middle school level, it's fairly similar to that, in that you must have a current physical on file in order for you to even try out or be part of the team. This past year, we moved to a program called Final Forms, which is an totally online program for filling out your forms. The best part about that is if you competed as an 8th grader and now going to come to the high school, all that information will come with you. So when you go back into those forms in the fall or in the winter, whenever you're going to participate in a sport, all you'll have to do is go in and update that information, give us a current physical, and you'll be ready to go, which is a nice part about that. But you can access Final Forms through the Mentor School's website on the athletics page. The other thing I like to talk about at this meeting is eligibility, in that your 4th quarter grades in 8th grade are what make you eligible for your 1st quarter at high school. And we run into this every year where we have a few 8th graders who maybe, just didn't get it done in the 4th quarter of their 8th grade year, come to the high school, try out for the girls' tennis team or try out for the soccer team, and all of a sudden I have to have a conversation with them because their grades weren't good enough in 8th grade for them to participate in high school. The Ohio High School Athletic Association always puts their grades 1 quarter behind. So it's the quarter grade in the preceding grading period that counts towards eligibility. You must be passing 5 classes as an 8th grader, okay, in order for you to be eligible. Mentor Board of Education also requires that you carry a 2.0 GPA in passing those 5 classes. Now, if you're passing the 5 classes, but you're below a 2 I am allowed to use a probation option in which we put you on probation for a quarter and still may allow you to play while you're on probation, and we do some things here at the high school to try to help you out academically. The other thing that you need to really start thinking about, and I know it sounds early, but in 9th grade, you have to look at if you think your son or daughter potentially may want to play athletics in college, you really need to start thinking about academically what types of courses that they're taking now. If they're on a college readiness track, they're pretty well set. But, we've had some student athletes who have come through in the past, and all of a sudden they're going to, apply for college, or they're going to work or play sports in college, and the NCAA pulls their transcript, and there was a class at some point that didn't meet the NCAA requirements. The NCAA requirements are different than the Mentor High requirements. They're different from the Ohio High School Athletic Association requirements. So if you have questions about that, you can talk to me, talk to one of the guidance counselors. We'll help you through that. But making sure that those classes are going to meet those credit requirements for the NCAA. I know it seems like it's a long way away. You're sitting here in 8th grade and thinking about, well, is my kid going to play college basketball? I don't know. I guess I'd rather have you be safe than having to go back and retake some classes down the road. In 8th grade, you'll probably start hearing some announcements now in the spring, especially from our fall coaches at the middle schools about team meetings and things like that. If you're in a fall sport or want to play a fall sport, our middle school or our high school coaches will generally either come down to the middle school or will sponsor a meeting up here at the high school. We try to promote those through the announcements at school. We try to promote them through our Twitter page, which is @MentorAthletics, to get that information out to you. All of our coaches will have some sort of preseason meeting to let you know about calendars and things like that, tryout dates and all of that. Generally, if you're looking at a fall sport, tryout is August 1st. After August 1st is when we're up and running. So if you're looking at planning family vacations and things like that, and your son or daughter is going to play soccer or football in the fall, you're going to think about having all that done before August 1st, because that's when they're going to really be coming to Mentor High School. So if you have questions or anything about those things, or you didn't get information and you think you heard about a meeting, please contact me at the high school, or send me an email, whatever it is. We'll be more than happy to point some of those things out to you. So again, that kind of wraps it up for me. I'm going to bring, by the way, here are our Twitter pages, @Mentor High and @MentorAthletics. I strongly suggest that you follow those. A lot of the information that I put out is through our Twitter handle. So at this time, we'll turn it back over to our building principal, Mr. Fetchick.
At this time, I'd like our department coordinators to come on up. While the department coordinators are coming up, I saw a lot of pictures trying to take screenshots, a lot of trying to take some notes. We will make sure this presentation is posted on our website. It'll also be tweeted out tomorrow, so a link that you can have it, and you'll have access to all those things like honors, diploma, and graduation requirements. I'm going to have our department coordinators just introduce themselves and their department. We have 2 microphones, and then I'm going to go through these questions rather quickly. Hopefully, many of them are yours.
Ed Pollock, Health and Physical Education.
Molly Gregg, Special Ed.
Lindsay Clare, Business.
Hillary Hoos, Special Ed.
Michelle Kane, Art Department.
Katie Siskin, Family Consumer Sciences.
Tracy Coleman, English.
Ted Skelton, Mathematics.
Brian Butler, Science.
Marie Waltz, Social Studies.
Annie Harem, Guidance.
Marianne Friend, World Language.
Bärbel Kriegs, World Language.
Sorry.
Jason Crow, Career Tech.
Thank you very much. We did not practice that synchronization. That was impressive. I'm going to get started. I don't want to keep you here too long, so I'm going to ask one of the frequently asked questions to Mrs. Coleman from the English department. Mrs. Coleman, what is the difference between honors and college English at Mentor High School?
Okay, thank you. So the college level English is a college preparatory course. Everything that your son or daughter would need to be successful in career, in college, in the military, as far as reading and writing skills, would come at the college English level. The honors course is accelerated. It's all of those skills, but it involves additional reading assignments, a little bit more homework, more out-of-class activities. And so you may be wondering, the 8th grade teacher may have said that he or she could see them in either. If your son or daughter wants to give honors a try, the 9th grade year would be the year to do it. It is much easier to move from an honors class to a college class in a subsequent year. And if your child is motivated and feels like he or she wants to give it a try, we welcome them to do that.
Thank you. Second question, 2 parts for you, Mr. Skilton, in the math department. What math course should my son or daughter take as a freshman? And the follow-up question is, are students able to take honors geometry and honors algebra 2 at the same time?
For the first question, it's required that they take algebra 1 if they haven't already as a freshman. There's 2 levels of algebra 1 similar to English. There's an honors level, and there's also a college preparatory level of algebra 1. If your son and daughter is kind of in between on the honors, we recommend at the high school that they try to push themselves early and find out if they could actually handle that rigor. and sign up for the Honors Algebra 1 course. If they do well in that, to answer the second question, they are able to take Honors Geometry and Honors Algebra 2 at the same time. That's the one set of math courses that they could do together, as well as later on in their math careers, they can also look at taking AP Statistics in conjunction with some of the other math courses that they could take. If they are going into Honors Geometry this coming up year, to go along with that second question, if your son or daughter is an exceptional math student and is looking at going into career related to mathematics, I would encourage them to take both courses if they have that room in their schedule, because down the line, as our counselors kind of alluded to, it gets harder to fit those in, and it would give them the opportunity to push even farther and maybe get to Calculus 3 their senior year.
Thank you. Mr. Pollack, Health and Physical Education. Do high school students need to wear uniforms for their physical education classes?
They do not need to wear a uniform like they did in middle school, but they do need to dress out daily. May change from their school clothing into some type of athletic apparel, shoes, socks, whether it be shorts, sweatpants, hoodies, t-shirts, but that is what they will need to do, not a uniform like they wear with the middle school.
Thanks. What is the conditioning class?
The conditioning class is a sport-based class. It is geared towards the athletes at Mentor High School. It differs completely from our PE9, which is a fitness-based course, and the coaches for the varsity programs are very much promoting that their athletes get into this class.
And then last question, can my child retake tests and quizzes in health?
They have to work that out with the health instructor. There are cases when they are able to do that. They will have to go through the whole unit again, and then they can retake those, but that needs to be worked out with the instructor for the class.
Thank you. Next set of questions is from the art department for Mrs. Kane. What's the difference between the classes Art Exploration and Art Foundations?
Art Foundations is 1 semester and it's worth half a credit, whereas the Art Explorations is 1 year and it's worth 1 credit. I will point out that both Art Explorations and Art Foundations give students a sample of the other classes we offer, such as printmaking, ceramics, jewelry, and painting.
Do those count as fine arts graduation credits?
Absolutely. All of our art classes count towards fulfilling the fine arts credit for the honors diploma and the visual art credit for the college core as well.
And then lastly, if my son or daughter is recommended for Fine Art 1, do they need to take it this coming year or can they take it the following year?
The fine art recommendation doesn't expire, so if your child would like to postpone that, they are welcome back, 10th grade, 11th grade, or even 12th grade.
Thank you. Next question, Mr. Butler from the Science Department. How should I know whether my son or daughter should take physical science or honors biology as a freshman?
Science has not been tracked in the middle school, so everybody took all of the sciences all together. So there is a bit of a decision there. My recommendation is 90% of your son or daughter should take physical science. Okay. However, that top 10% of the class may want to go ahead and hop straight into honors biology. What's the incentive to do that? The incentive to do that is, as a freshman, I take honors biology. As a sophomore, I take honors chem. And then my junior, senior year, it allows me to take AP biology, AP chemistry, and then 1 of 3 levels of physics. So I can reach the upper level classes quicker by doing that. With that said, 90% will take physical science. 2/3 of the kids in our honors biology class are sophomores. So your son or daughter, I don't want people to feel like, oh, I have to do this if they're going to get there, because that's not the case. They can still get to the AP levels. Essentially, there will be 1 AP class they won't be able to take, be it physics, chemistry, or biology, to get to the end because they took the physical science class. But other than that, there is a rumor at the middle school that if they don't take physical science, they'll do very poorly in chemistry and in physics because they won't have a background. That isn't true. For my 22 years here, that's simply not true. Those kids excel at that. When you're stuck, my decision as a parent, my son is a disorganized mess. That child is smart, But he is in the band, he runs cross country, he has all this stuff to go. He took physical science. He simply was not ready. He's now a sophomore. He's doing really well in honors biology. That was the decision I made. My daughter is the complete opposite. Honors bio is for her. So you've got to look at that. What am I involved in? How much time? Am I stepping it up in math class? Am I stepping it up in English class? Does my son and daughter have the time management and that organizational skills to go ahead and do it? The freshmen who step in traditionally are very successful, but it's more of a time management thing. And am I going to be overwhelmed by all that I step into at Mentor High School? If you have any doubt at all, wait 1 year, let them take honors biology the next year.
Thank you. A couple more questions. This next one's very similar for the Social Studies Department and Mrs. Waltz. What is the difference between Honors Modern World History and Modern World History?
Like the other core subjects, College Modern World History is the college preparatory course for 9th graders. It is a continuation of what they, chronologically, of what they started in 7th grade. It'll pick up in the middle of the 18th century. Honors World History, Modern World History, is an expanded course. It has more depth, it has more breadth. It will go back to, for you history buffs, to 1492. We all remember what that is. We'll go back to 1492, and it will continue to present. It will also rely a lot more on the AP historical thinking skills, the advanced placement historical thinking skills, to prepare students for potentially taking advanced placement courses later in their high school career.
Thank you. Next questions for our Special Education Department, Mrs. Hoos and Mrs. Gregg. Are there IEPs in college?
Okay, we get that question a lot, especially as students are getting older, and no, there aren't. There are no modifications at the college level. There are accommodations like extended time, tests read aloud, and things like that. So really, all students are held to the same standard as any other college student. So as students get older, it's always a team decision, but we do encourage you to kind of peel away a lot of those modifications and even unneeded accommodations, just to challenge so that that senior year reflects more closely what a college experience is going to look like.
Thank you. And a second question. How do student responsibilities look different at the high school level compared to the middle school, specifically with a student on an IEP?
Okay, a lot of these I feel were touched on already, but our students who are on educational plans, when they come to the high school, it might be a little overwhelming in terms of seeing many more teachers during the day, and just the rigor and expectations in classes being more intense, I would say. So we really try to put an emphasis on organization and communication. If your student is on an educational plan, they will still have a case manager at the high school level who they ideally will see daily. But we do really push for frequent communication with all of your classroom teachers, in addition to that case manager. We also, at the high school level, are planning more transitionally. So we're looking at the outcome of a successful adult life. So kind of going back to the accommodations and modifications, we, might find ourselves in some situations where we're stepping out of our comfort zone and challenging ourselves, and that's okay. We can always have those team discussions and decisions, but really the outcome is to set your son or daughter up for their adult life. So we're trying to put more responsibility on their shoulders and have them advocate for themselves more as a learner, so that they are prepared to do that when they leave us.
Thank you. Last question. It's for our World Language Department, Mrs. Friend and Mrs. Cricks. My son or daughter currently has a C in Spanish 1 or French 1 or German 1. Should he or she take Spanish, French, or German 2 next year?
We try to say that if a student has a strong C, it would be fine to go to the next level. However, students that are in that lower C range tend to struggle more in level 2. What we'd suggest is that they retake the level that they're currently in, and this goes for the upper levels as well, so that they retake, or maybe they'd rather try another language. That's also a possibility. That's one of the great things about starting with the 8th grade. When you come to the 9th grade, you can try something different. You need 3 years for the honors diploma, as Ms. Harum said, of a foreign language, or 2 consecutive years of another language. So there are lots of options, but we really would like your students to try a foreign language. It's not as hard as it might seem.
Thank you. You touched on the last question, was whether it was able to switch from one language to the other, and obviously you can when you get to the 9th grade, so thank you. Those are all the questions, frequently asked questions that we hear at this orientation. So at this time, our department coordinators are going to be available in the hallway. You're more than welcome to stop if you have individual questions and ask. But if there's other questions about the school or future scheduling, please check our website or feel free to call at your convenience. Thanks again for coming.